I believe it's always a great day when we dive into the bishop's opening. If you've been following me for a while, you know it's one of my favorite strategies to counter. First, black smoothly plays pawn to e5. The most common move for black here is the standard move, knight to f6, attacking this pawn. Although there are different things that you can do here, we're going to look at the move, knight to f3, which counterattacks black's pawn on e5. Again, there are a few options that black can choose to play here. But let's first take a look at one of the funniest ones, and that is the move, bishop to c5, which is actually one of the most played moves in this position. Funnily enough, the standard move is losing so badly for black that black can't even imagine how much they're going to suffer over the course of the next few moves. Again, this looks just like such a standard movement, kind of like the Italian game, where black is making usual moves, but that's not really the case. First of all, you're grabbing this pawn happily and thanking your opponent because now black will realize that they can't mimic your moves anymore. Knight takes e4 would lose because knight to e5 also hits this pawn on f7. Black has to guard it, otherwise you're going to capture it with either the bishop or the knight. And in both cases, that is deadly. Therefore, black will probably castle to keep their pawn, but that's not the end of black's suffering. After d4, another attack, the bishop retreats, and now you have another nice little combo, which black did not expect. Not only have you won a pawn, but now you keep attacking with the move. Knight takes f7, something black totally did not expect. You're calling the king out, and after pawn to e5, strangely enough, black is defenseless. Although it looks like nothing too bad has happened with this king so far, it is exposed, and on the next move, you plan to keep attacking with something like queen to f3 or h5, and you just win. For example, in one funny line, which is also, I believe, the most played line, knight to d5, you follow up with queen to f3 with a double attack on the king and the knight. Similar to the fried liver attack, the attacking pattern is the same. If black wants to keep their knight, they have to keep moving forward with the king instead of developing the rest of their army. For that, you play c4, continuing the attack. Now this knight is attacked once again and usually moves over here. But now, pawn to d5, and the king is nearly in checkmate. For example, if the king takes on e5, then queen to f4 is a very nice checkmate, which occurs after black played all the natural, standard moves in the opening, hoping that they were just doing the right thing. By the way, there is also a funny celebration here in this attack. After you play pawn to e5, attacking this knight. We already know that knight to d5 is not an option because of queen to f3 with a massive attack here and here. So, knight to d5 is not an option. What else can black play? This diagonal is controlled by the queen, so the knight can't go there as it would be captured by white's queen. Black may decide, okay, let me play safe. I'll just go back so that nothing can capture this knight anymore. You say, okay, and play queen to h5. This time, you check the king and also attack this pawn. After the king goes back, there's a funny move, bishop to g5, like hiding their king, but now their queen is nearly trapped. For a significant material deficit, it's basically time for black to resign. Alright, let's move on. We already know that the natural-looking bishop to c5 is, in fact, a fatal mistake. After that, you grab this pawn, attack here, and you win. What else can black do? Well, of course, there are different variations. For now, let's take a look at another common move, which is knight takes e4. Black played knight to f6, attacking this pawn. You didn't defend it, so it makes sense for black to grab it. Right? Here, I suggest you play the move knight to c3, which transforms the game into something like the Stafford Gambit, but you're playing as white and have an extra tempo. After knight takes c3 and pawn takes, you have a classical gambit. Yes, you sacrificed a pawn, but you're way ahead in development. Black is still completely underdeveloped and your pieces are extremely active. One bishop is active, the other is ready to join, the knight can take this pawn or do something else, and the queen is active, able to jump somewhere. Your pieces are already way ahead in development, so you are ready to start attacking. There are many traps here. The first thing your opponent might notice is that you are attacking this pawn. If black tries defending it, say, with knight to c6, that's a mistake because they overlook your second, hidden threat, knight to g5. From here, we attack this pawn, and there is no sufficient defense, you win as simple as that. Alright, let's take a step back. What if black defends this pawn with pawn to d6? First of all, you can play the same threat, knight to g5 wins just as well. Still, there is no sufficient defense, and you win. Besides that, there is another line, not necessarily stronger, but a funnier and more entertaining option, which is knight takes e5, sacrificing the knight in the style of the old masters. You still hit the pawn with your knight and bishop. If black captures it, there's bishop takes f7, deflecting black's king from defending the queen, and you win. If the king moves away, you capture the queen. If the king tries to maintain the defense, then there's bishop to g5, you bring up one more attacker, and you capture the queen with either the bishop or the queen, winning the game. The most stubborn defense for black in this position is the weird move pawn to f6. It doesn't look good because it weakens this diagonal, and black can't castle easily anymore. But the advantage of pawn to f6 is that it prevents both of white's threats, so your knight can't jump here or here, and at least for now, black is temporarily safe. Of course, you keep attacking. Black is underdeveloped, the king is weak and exposed, so we're going to take advantage of that. We just change the knight's route, jumping it to h4. Opening up for the queen to go to h5 and deliver a potential scholar's mate threat. Black has to defend, so they play another pawn move, g6. Black keeps playing defensively without developing, which works in your favor because you're already ahead in development. You'd love to open up the position so that your pieces can start a direct attack on the opponent's king, so you play pawn to f4. If your opponent takes this pawn, you're happy because you achieve your goal. Once again, what I love about this is that black can easily go wrong at every step. There are many natural-looking moves that are, in fact, big mistakes. For example, here, pawn takes f4 is very risky for black because you don't even need to recapture it. You can just castle, and you see that you're ready to attack along the e-file. Black's king is kind of trapped and can't castle anymore. And I believe that in a real practical game, black will probably be defenseless. Right, let's take it back. If black does not want to take this pawn, besides capturing here, you've got another threat of pawn to e5, which is also very annoying for black. The only way for them to play is the move, queen to e7. They're unlikely to find this move unless they are prepared. But even if they are prepared, we're going to keep attacking with pawn to f5. Our goal here is to get rid of these pawns so that our queen can still jump over here or there and attack the king. For example, if black tries to keep it safe and plays g5, you say, okay, let's push this knight away. Instead of moving the knight away, you simply play queen to h5, not king to h5, queen to h5, checking the king. The king has to move, which is already favorable for us, and now there's another typical combo, knight to g6. We're taking advantage of this pin, and the knight is also forking the queen and rook. So we're definitely going to win something, probably the rook. If they capture here, we're going to win the rook and keep attacking. Therefore, in this position, the correct move for black instead of pawn to g5 is another unusual move, queen to g7. Of course, if your opponent plays all these moves, it means they're either very well prepared or possibly using assistance. Anyway, we keep attacking. We trade here and play queen to g4, renewing the threat to this pawn. Your opponent will probably respond with pawn to g5. Now, you go knight to f5, which is a nice move, creating a threat to the queen. After the queen moves, let's say to this square, you continue attacking with bishop to d3. Setting up a discovered check on the next move. After something like knight to d6, you win the queen.